Very good. Welcome. And we'll start off with the bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And today, of course, is December 3rd. Here goes to the screen. Here. Here. Okay. All right, I got your chat. So we go back to here. We were on, I think we did verse 17. Yes, we did. All right. So we're going to go to 18.
Yeah.
This is Jacob giving instructions to the messengers who will be preceding him, each of them bringing a different species of domesticated farm animal. Okay. Vayitzav et harishon lemor, and he commanded the first group, the first person, the first set of messengers, saying, Ki yish yif, and I want to say yif goshcha. I'd like to make that a kamatz katan.
That's what it says.
Okay, good. Because this meteg here sometimes means an accent, but I think it should be, at least the rules that I'm aware of. So,
The accent is on. I mean, the
yeah, it's where there's
is
Hayim.
the ha.
Right. Good. Yeah. So yif goshcha. If Esav, Achi, if
I see what you're saying though, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, normally a meteg indicates that's where the accent is.
Yeah, that it's taken away from the cantillated syllable. Yeah.
Right. And maybe there it's to come to let you know that it is a kamatz katan. But okay, I don't want to spend the time explaining technical reasons why that should be a yifkosh. Right. All right. If Esau, my brother, should meet you, ushe'elcha lemor, and should ask you, quote, lemor, the mi ata, to whom are you? The ana telech, and where are you going? Ulami ela lefanecha, and to whom are these before you? And of course it continues, but we are going to go into the Rashi now. Lemi ata, shel mi ata. So he's saying that the to whom means of whom, right? Mm-hmm. Of whom are you? To whom do you belong? Mi shulchacha, who is sending you? The Targumor, and right now you see that he's saying there is the Aramaic here, lemin ata. So he's saying, this is interesting. Look at the Sepharia, because the Sepharia says it shouldn't say lemin ata, it should say demin ata. So, because lemin at would be a direct translation of the Hebrew into Aramaic. So this was puzzling me at the time. And then I looked in Sepharia and they indicated that this may be a misprint.
Well, in Chabad it says Daman at.
Yes, or Damin at.
It says man, it has a vowel.
Okay, it does, but there's no aleph after the mem.
There is.
Okay,
in the Chabad, I can show it to you.
No, it's okay. I believe you. It's very strange. See, my text does not have the aleph there, which is why I did not pronounce it man. Otherwise, I would have.
Gotcha.
Okay. Give me a second here. But it means, apparently Rashi is correcting something here. Let me go on. Ulami ela lefanecha, ve'ela shelefanecha, and these that are before you, in other words, the animals, it sounds like, right? Shel mihem, to whom do they belong? Lemi hamincha hazot shlucha, in other words, to whom is this gift being sent? So he says lamed, this actually is lamed, the letter lamed, mishameshet barosh hateva, that is serving at the beginning of a word, bimakom shel, bimakom shel, has the same meaning as of.
Yep.
More, and now he gives examples. V'chol asher ata ro'eh lihu, and everything that you see is mine. So he says shelihu. So li, which means to me, in this situation here, means mine, of me. And in chapter 24 of Psalms, Lashem haaretz umloah. So it means to Hashem is the earth and its fullness, meaning shel Hashem. It belongs to. So to understand this as a possessive, that's what it is. Going on. So we're continuing this instruction that Jacob is giving his servants. For Amarta, and you should say, La'avdacha leYaakov, to your servant, to Jacob. Mincha hishlucha, it is a gift he is sending, it is a sent gift, La'adoni Esav, to my lord, to Esau. Vehine gamhu acharenu, and indeed he is following us, he is after us, behind us. Va'amarta la'avdacha leYaakov, and you should say it of Jacob, of your servant Jacob. And he makes the point, Rashi makes the point, Arishon Rishon. He answers, there's several questions that were asked, and he answers the first question first, Ve'al acharon acharon, and on the last question, he gives the last answer, Shesha'alta lami ata, so you asked, to whom do you belong? La'avdacha leYaakov, I am a servant of your servant Jacob, Ani, the Targumo, and here we go. So we've got another example here of where Rashi's quoting the Targum, La'avdach leYaakov, to your servant, to Jacob. Is there any note there in the Chabad?
It just says, no, it just says, it says of your servant of Jacob, and in reference to, in parentheses, and then it continues what you asked.
Right, but the question that I would have is, why does Rashi have a need to put this in? What's he trying to tell us in giving us the Targum here?
But it's interesting because Rashi originally says your servant Jacob, and then it says the Targum says of your servant of Jacob.
Yeah.
So maybe it has something to do with that difference.
I don't know. Maybe.
But I know this whole story, they just keep mentioning, again and again, your father, your brother, your servant, and they just keep mentioning it again and again with the names. It's always a repetition of the name and the relationship. And so that's why I was wondering if it was so much focusing, pointing out relationships, because it's just constantly mentioned as a separate thing. I mean, we know who Jacob is.
Right.
They could have just said, why do they have to put it like that?
Okay, so this is direct speech, and we're using your servant almost every time he says Jacob. If not every time he says Jacob to Esau, he emphasizes your servant. In other words, he is trying to appease Esau and hoping to appease Esau by letting him know that he is subject to him, and that he is making him his Lord.
But is there a difference between your servant Jacob and your servant of Jacob? Of your servant of Jacob versus just of, I belong to your servant Jacob, or of your servant of Jacob.
Well, I don't think that, no, I think grammatically it works the same.
So I don't know the point.
Might be a subtle distinction, but right now, if you look at the Hebrew, right, La'avdacha leYaakov, it's exactly the same as, look at that, it's identical in the Targum.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go on. Ushesha'alta ulami ele lefanecha mincha hi shlucha, and that you asked, to whom are these, in other words, these animals before you? It is mincha hi shlucha. It is a gift. I'm answering that question. It is a gift that is being sent to Esau. Vehine gamhu, and behold, he too. It's referring obviously to Jacob. That's there to tell Esau that. Onwards. Uh, 20. Vaitzav gam et hasheni, and he commanded in the same way, like manner, the second group, gam et hashlishi, the third group, gam et kol haochim. In fact, all of them. All of them got the same instructions. Acharei ha'adarim lemor, that is haochim acharei ha'adarim, those who were driving, they were going, literally means who were going behind the flocks, with these words, kadavar hazeh, in this manner, tedabrum el Esav, you shall speak to Esau, motza'achem oto, when you happen upon him, when you find him. So,
No Rashi there.
no. Va'amartem gam hine avdacha Yaakov acharenu. And you have to say to him, okay, you should say to him, or say, gam hine, behold, indeed, here too, your servant Jacob is following us. He amar, and see, the word amar, it works much better with he thought instead of he said. For he thought, achapra panav b'mincha, I may, this is going to be interesting, this word achapra, I can appease his face or his presence through the gift, haholechet lefanai, which is coming before me, va'acharei echein, and after that, fanav, I will see his face, Esau's face, ulai yisa fanai. Perhaps he will, literally, it means to lift up my face, but it means, perhaps he will grant me favor, is what it's meaning. Favor me.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go with the Rashi. Apapra panav. So Rashi explains, avatel rogzo, I will remove his anger. I will cause his anger to be annulled. Get rid of it. And he gives the example from Isaiah 28, and again using this verb kippur. So we'll see exactly what does the festival or the holiday Yom Kippur actually mean. Because we translate it as atonement, but the truth is that it robs us of the actual meaning of Hebrew, and Rashi's going to explain that to that.
That's interesting.
The hofer britchem et mavet. Your covenant removes death. So it
Well,
renders it batel. It renders it ineffective. Lo tuchlu lo tochle kapara, meaning, and this is again Isaiah, you will not be capable of cleansing. And Rashi now says, it appears to me, shekol kapara etzel avon v'chet, that anytime you find the term kapara with respect to iniquity or sinning, the etzel panim, or next to the word panim, presence, kulan lashon kinuach, they are all have the meaning of cleansing. V'ha'avara, and oh, I had the word, but basically cleansing or removing.
so let me just tell you what Chabad says with all
Yes.
of this, and it's
Okay.
pretty similar to what you said, but I don't know if the things that are different are meaningful or not.
Okay.
It
That's
says,
okay.
and your treaty with death shall be nullified.
Right. Okay.
You shall not be able to rid yourself of it. That's the one from the Ibid
Right.
one. And then
Right.
it says,
Second
it
one.
appears to my eyes that any kapora near sin or blah, 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 or near countenance or terms of wiping away or removal. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. So it's like saying it's just wiping something out. It doesn't really say cleansing, but I understand why you're saying cleansing. But it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of seems to be implied, just kind of decimating, wiping it
Yeah.
completely out,
Mm-hmm.
nullifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think wiping is sort of a better, gives you that idea. In other words, it's sort of this gentle removal, I suppose. I don't know. It doesn't have to be gentle, I suppose. All right. But they have that meaning of some kind of removal.
Mm-hmm.
Velashon arami, who, and he says that in fact the word kapar is actually an Aramaic root. It's actually Aramaic. For harbe begamara, and there are many examples of this usage in the Gemara. V'chiper yadeh, he washed his hands.
Just
Ba'e
wipe.
lekip. Okay, all right. So that does make a difference. So he wiped his hands. Thank you. I'm going to put that in. Give me a moment, please.
And yeah, and in this, at least in this edition, they continue to use the word wipe.
Okay. So, okay, no, I think that's sufficiently important.
As opposed to lirchatz, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, lirchotz would be to wash.
To wash.
All right. The kiper yadeh, ba'a lekipure or lekfure yadeh, bahahu gavra, and it says he wanted to wipe the hands of that individual, of that person, or it could mean he wanted to wipe his own hands, by the way.
That's what it says. He wants to wipe his hands on this person.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the context.
That's
Sometimes
what it says.
Hahu Gavra, that person can refer to the person they're referring to, not
Okay,
someone else.
this
But
is
sometimes,
Chabad interpretation.
no. They have good scholars. They really do. They're certainly well versed in the traditional learning. V'gam b'mashon hamikra, and likewise also, not only in rabbinic Hebrew, but also scriptural Hebrew, nikraim hamizrakim shel kodesh, the bowls, the sanctified bowls are called kipurei zahav. They're called kipurei, golden kipurim, al shem, because they are because hakohen mekaneach yadav, because the priest wipes his hands with them, bahen bisfat hamizrak, on the uh, on the edge of the bowl. So again, using wipe is a little bit. I guess you could use wipe, right? But that's why I was thinking of sort of to cleanse.
Yeah,
But
because if you're wiping dirt off or if you're wiping sin off, you are
yeah,
cleansing.
right. I know, but you want to catch. But I mean, I do want to catch the right connotation. And and there's a subtle distinction here. So yeah, onwards. Here we go. The ta'avor hamincha al panav, and the gift passed in front of him. V'hu lan balaylahu b'machaneh, and he spent that night in the camp. So lalun specifically has to do with a night resting during the night, and it's interesting because I just realized that the word malon, which means hotel in Hebrew, has the idea of being able to spend the night in that particular room, that particular establishment.
And what's the word for tourist?
Tayar, I
Oh, so
think.
that's not related.
No.
Okay.
Tayar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Al panav, in front, before him. Kamol lefanav. So even though it says on, literally on his face, or it means lefanav, it still means before him. And Rashi gives some other examples of this use of the preposition al as al panav as referring to it isn't literally on his face or on his presence or something like that. V'chein hamas v'shod yishma ba al panai. So he's saying violence and destruction will be heard within it. Al panai, that is heard within it, is before me. Tamid, always, is always before me. That is sort of God is conscious of this stuff that's going on. V'chein, and likewise in Isaiah 65, Hamach isim oti al panai, who anger me in my presence, who do things to anger me in my presence. Midrash Agadah, this is sort of neat too. There's a midrashic interpretation, al panav, that this al panav means af hu sharui bakas, to say that Jacob too remained angry, shayat tzarich lechol, that he had to go to all this kind of trouble, which is sort of very interesting because it's definitely going deeper than the text itself, and it's saying underneath this rather innocent sounding text, we should understand that Jacob was quite distressed to have to do that. That he was angry in a way that he had to do all this. So I mean the Rashi is giving us an insight into how Jacob was feeling at the time, which is interesting.
It sure makes sense.
Oh yeah, it does. All right, let's go on here. Vayakom balaylahu, he arose that night. Vayikach et shtei nashav, and he took his two wives, ve'et shtei shifchotav, and his two maidservants, ve'et achadasar yiladav, and his 11 children, vayavor et ma'avar yavok, and he crossed the ford of the Yabok. So that we're given this incidentally. I realized that the word you'll see. Okay, I guess I'm not going to share that with you right now. We'll wait until we get to the actual place. Let's see. The et achadasar yeladav and his 11 children. So Rashi asks a great question from based on Bereshit Rabbah. The Dina hechan haita. Wait a second. What about Dina? Wasn't she one of his children? Where was she? So the answer is Natna Bateva. He placed her in a chest, V'na'al Bevaneha, and he locked the chest with her inside. Shelo Yiten Ba Esav Einav, so that Esau should not cast his eyes. Ulafach Ne'enash Yaakov. And the fact is that Jacob was punished for doing this. Wow, that's amazing. Shemina'a me'achiv, because he prevented her, he kept her away from his brother. Shema tachzirenu lamutav, and there was that possibility that she would have had a good influence on him and caused him to return for the good. V'nafla b'yad Shechem, and so she fell under the hands of Shechem, into the hands of Shechem. Yabok.
He was punished for Jacob. It says
Jacob
Jacob was punished, but she was the one punished. I mean, they're both punished because, he felt guilty and upset about what happened to her, but she was the innocent, punished person.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. And that is Vatetse Dina. So there is this sense that of great modesty on the part of the women not to go out into the marketplace, because there was a sense that it inevitably led to immorality. And so they mentioned that about Dinah, that she wasn't innocent with regards to this. I'm not saying that she was deeply guilty by any means, but it's not that she didn't provide cause for this happening.
So she and Jacob together had the idea and executed it to go in for her to go in the box.
That's a really, something that's a super interesting inference. Never thought of it quite like that. I don't know whether that in some ways is anachronistic, because remember, he's the patriarch, and she might, I mean, we just don't know her feelings, but she
Or
would
how old
hardly
she
object.
is.
She wasn't really in a position to object. By the way,
So
she does.
what was her part that you're saying?
Oh, that initially she wound up with Shem because she was going around the place.
Oh, it's the Shem part. Okay.
Yes, it's the
The
Shem part,
punishment,
not
the
this
pu-
part here.
the punishment for Jacob was that his daughter was seized and raped.
Correct,
And what was he being punished for? For putting her in a box.
correct. And preventing her from possibly helping Esau do tshuva. So there's another little piece there, which is talking about the influence a wife can have on her husband. That generally speaking, that wives have deep influences on their husbands, and so Dinah might have caused Esau to do tshuva, and
So it's
because
also a sign of Jacob still being scared and not having 100% faith that God will make everything all right, that he's still acting out of fear.
right, and also of course it follows very naturally from what Rashi just told us when he said that Jacob was angry at having to do all of this. So this would have come out of his anger on that as well.
Yeah, which was really needed, that midrash acher about the meaning of al panav, because
Yeah.
we've just had Jacob speaking at such length in such an obsequious way.
I know. Uriah Heep, right?
Yeah, and you're just wondering, what is he actually feeling? He
There
can't
is a
really
lot of
be feeling
there's
this way.
criticism. There is some criticism of Jacob, because I think he bows 7 times maybe as he goes up to see Esau. Look, this is a great lesson that in terms of human behavior and human psychology, that when a person is obsequious, start being suspicious. Don't assume that that's a sincere feeling.
Yes, sir.
Well, it has happened.
No, it does.
Yeah. Be
And it
careful.
has to do usually with the aggression of the person who has more, more power in the sense of, the ability, not necessarily spiritual power, but,
Yeah.
Political power, or the power to
Right.
be
Exactly.
aggressive and punishing or whatever.
Right. Let me stop here, and we'll be able to start on time for services. But I can also, does anybody have any other comments? And then otherwise I'll stop the recording.
It's kind of reminding me of Aviva Zornberg. So it's interesting because they're
Oh,
talking about
really?
it being from
Yeah.
a midrash, but they're talking about, when she's very psychological. She talks about how people feel, not, what their actions show in the Peshat, but what they must be feeling because of the whole context of what happened to them, making them who they are and how they feel.
Yes. And of course, the Midrash is also highly critical of Esau back in Toldot, when it sounds like he's so innocent and naive. And in fact, they actually pull out that he's actually cruel and, conniving, and he's a hunter. That's how they understand, at least
Esau, yeah.
hunter in that context. So I'm going to stop the recording.
Well, and Jacob's fear was passed down